August 1st, 1914. Newcastle upon Tyne. A battleship sits in the harbor, paid for in full, ready to sail home. The crew has been waiting for months. The Turkish flag is folded and ready to be raised. The coal bunkers are packed. The ammunition is loaded. And then British soldiers march onto the dock with fixed bayonets and Maxim guns. They board the ship. They lower the Turkish colors. They raise the white ensign. It's over in an hour. We think this was a military decision. We think Churchill seized these ships to protect the Royal Navy. We think it was about strategy, about dreadnoughts, about the balance of naval power in the North Sea. We're wrong. This wasn't about ships. It was about cash. The Ottoman Empire didn't collapse because of armies or ideology or the Young Turks. They collapsed because they were bankrupt. And Churchill didn't just steal 2 battleships. He stole the collateral on a national loan. He foreclosed on an entire empire. The ledger tells the real story. Let's open it. Rewind to 1912. The Ottoman Empire still looks magnificent on paper. It stretches from the Balkans to Yemen, from Libya to Iraq. 600 years of history. Palaces lined with gold leaf. Mosques that touch the sky. Bazaars overflowing with silk and spice. The Sultan walks through halls of marble. Diplomats bow. Ambassadors present credentials. From the outside it looks like power, but beneath the surface the foundation is rotting. The empire is drowning in debt. Foreign bondholders control the customs revenue. European banks own the railroads. The Ottoman Public Debt Administration, a consortium of British, French, and German creditors, collects taxes before the government even sees the money. Sovereignty exists on maps and in ceremonies, but sovereignty is solvency, and the Ottomans are insolvent. The Balkan Wars exposed the truth. In 1912, Greece, Bulgaria, Serbia, and Montenegro attack. The Ottoman armies crumble. Refugees flood into Istanbul. But the real disaster happens at sea. The Greek Navy buys a single armored cruiser from Italy. It's called the Averof. It's faster and better armed than anything the Ottomans have. In 2 battles, it single-handedly terrorizes the entire Ottoman fleet. It blocks the Dardanelles. It cuts off troop movements. The Ottoman Navy, once the terror of the Mediterranean, hides in port like a frightened dog. The psychological damage is catastrophic. Turkish citizens watch from the hills of Istanbul as their rusting ironclads retreat from one Greek ship. The humiliation burns. The Young Turks, the nationalist modernizers who run the government, understand the equation. In the 20th century, power equals steel. Steel equals dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts equal respect. Without a modern navy, the empire is defenseless. Without defense, creditors foreclose. It's that simple. But there's a problem. The treasury is empty. The empire owes money to everyone. London, Paris, Berlin, Vienna. The annual budget can barely cover interest payments. How do you buy the most expensive weapons on earth when you're already bankrupt? The answer is brilliant and desperate. You crowdsource it. The government launches the Navy League, a national fundraising campaign that becomes a religious revival. They frame the purchase of battleships as a sacred duty. It's not just about military strategy. It's about defending Islam against Christian powers that want to carve up the last Muslim empire. The campaign taps into something primal: pride, humiliation. revenge, hope. The scenes that unfold are extraordinary. In the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul, merchants set up collection boxes decorated with images of battleships. In remote Anatolian villages, peasants who had never seen the sea walk for days to donate a bag of grain. Imams preach sermons declaring that every lira given is a bullet fired in defense of the faithful. Women donate their jewelry. Schoolgirls cut their hair and sell it to European wig makers. Old women give their wedding rings, their only financial security in a patriarchal world. It becomes a mass movement. The government issues medals to donors, bronze for small amounts, silver and gold for the wealthy. If you walk into a coffee house without a Navy League ribbon, you're looked at like a traitor. It's a total mobilization of national wealth. Billions of liras pour in. Peasants, merchants, landowners. Everyone gives something. It's the most successful crowdfunding campaign in history, decades before the internet. With this river of gold, the Ottoman government goes shopping. They go to Britain because British shipyards build the best warships in the world. They order the reshape from Vickers. Then they get lucky. Armstrong Whitworth in Newcastle is building a monster for Brazil called the Rio de Janeiro. It's a super dreadnought with 14 12-inch guns. No battleship in history has carried so many heavy guns. But the Brazilian rubber boom collapses. The economy tanks. Brazil can't afford the ship. The Ottomans swoop in. They empty the Navy League accounts. They take high-interest loans from French banks. They buy the Rio de Janeiro and rename it Sultan Osman I. The ship is a beast, nearly 700 feet long, 27,000 tons, 7-gun turrets, 14 12-inch cannons. It can fire 7 tons of high-explosive shells in a single broadside. It's designed to vaporize anything afloat. The price tag is staggering, over £2 million sterling. In today's money, that's roughly $300 million. For a nation drowning in debt, it's an insane gamble. But the logic is clear. This ship is collateral. It's a deterrent. It's a statement that says we are not prey. It's an insurance policy against further territorial losses. It's the down payment on survival. The Ottoman sailors arrive in Newcastle in July 1914, 500 men in red fezzes, bronze faces. They've traveled 3,000 miles. They live on a transport ship, learning the hydraulics, the turbines, the fire control systems. They write letters home describing the magnificent vessel. They pray toward Mecca on cold English decks. They dream of sailing home to a hero's welcome. The Sultan is preparing a ceremony. Children are rehearsing songs. Flags line the Golden Horn. The departure is scheduled for August 5th. But 300 miles south in London, Winston Churchill is doing math. Churchill is 39 years old, First Lord of the Admiralty. Brilliant, energetic, arrogant. He sits at his desk in Whitehall, staring at a map of the North Sea. Europe is sliding toward war. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand on June 28th has triggered a diplomatic avalanche. Austria-Hungary is mobilizing. Russia is mobilizing. Germany is preparing to invade France through Belgium. Britain will likely be dragged in within days. Churchill's mind is on the water. If war comes, Britain's survival depends on the Royal Navy. The island imports most of its food. If the sea lanes are cut, Britain starves. The Grand Fleet must crush the German High Seas Fleet and maintain the blockade that will strangle Germany's economy. He counts the dreadnoughts. 22 British capital ships, 15 German capital ships. The margin is thin. If a few British ships hit mines or get torpedoed in the opening days, the balance shifts. Britain could lose the war in an afternoon. His eyes keep drifting back to the list of foreign warships being built in British yards. Two names glare at him: Sultan Osman I Rishadi, two super dreadnoughts, the most powerful ships of their generation, and they belong to the Ottoman Empire, whose loyalty is uncertain. German influence in Istanbul is growing. German officers train the Ottoman army. German engineers build the Berlin-Baghdad railway. The Ottomans are officially neutral, but neutrality is a luxury of the solvent. Churchill faces a nightmare scenario. What if the Turks sail these ships home and then join the Germans? What if British-built battleships are used to sink British cruisers in the Mediterranean? What if they shell British bases in Egypt? What if they threaten Suez Canal, the lifeline that connects Britain to India? It's a risk he's not willing to take. He turns to Prince Louis of Battenberg, the first Sea Lord, and makes a decision that will echo through history. We cannot afford to have these ships used against us. The legal implications are irrelevant. The moral implications are secondary. The fact that the Ottoman government has already paid for the ships in full is a mere detail in the calculus of empire. Churchill decides to steal them. It's a foreclosure. It's a liquidation. It's piracy with a legal stamp. On August 1st, Churchill issues the requisition order. A battalion of British infantry march through the gates of the Armstrong-Whitworth shipyard. They set up machine guns. They surround the dry dock. Captain Rolf Bay, the Ottoman commander, arrives to find his ship ringed with bayonets. A British officer hands him a letter on official stationery. His Majesty's government is exercising its right of preemptive requisition due to national emergency. The Ottoman crews are ordered to collect their belongings and leave immediately. There will be no negotiation. The scene is one of crushing humiliation. The Turkish sailors who polished the brass and scrubbed the decks watch as British blue jackets march aboard. They watch British officers walk into the captain's cabin. The Ottoman flag is lowered. The white ensign is raised. Rolf Bay stands on the dock, fists clenched, fighting back tears. He's a warrior trained to suppress emotion. But in this moment he feels the weight of national tragedy. He gathers his men. They board the transport ship. They return home empty-handed. The financial damage is immediate and total. The Ottoman government has paid £2,300,000 sterling for the Sultan Osman. They've paid £1,500,000 for the reshape. That's £3,800,000. In today's money, roughly $600 million. Gone. No refund. No compensation. No apology. Churchill doesn't even pretend it's legal. He just takes them. When the news hits Istanbul, the reaction is volcanic. It's not just a political dispute. It's a personal robbery. Every man who wore a Navy League medal feels like Churchill reached into his pocket and stole his money. The newspapers scream for blood. The posters of the Navy League are torn down or draped in black. Women weep in the streets. The peasants who gave their grain, the schoolgirls who sold their hair, the old women who gave their wedding rings, they've all been betrayed. The Ottoman cabinet is in turmoil. The Grand Vizier Said Halim Pasha is a moderate. He wants to negotiate, to demand compensation, to maintain neutrality. But Enver Pasha, the Minister of War, sees opportunity. Enver is 32 years old, ambitious, ruthless, a fervent admirer of Germany. He's been trying to push the empire into an alliance with Germany for months, but the other ministers resisted. They feared British naval power. But now Churchill has handed Enver the perfect weapon, a rallying cry. Enver stands up in the cabinet meeting and slams his fist on the table. Look at what the British have done. They treat us like slaves. They steal our ships. They spit on our honor. How can we trust them? The Germans treat us like warriors. They offer us an alliance of equals. The argument is compelling. The theft has destroyed the pro-British faction. The balance tips. Meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, a drama is unfolding that will seal the empire's fate. Admiral Wilhelm Souchon commands a German naval squadron. The battle cruiser Goeben and the light cruiser Breslau. On August 3rd, as Germany invades Belgium and Britain issues ultimatums, the German High Command sends a secret message to Souchon. Proceed to Constantinople. It's a desperate order. Souchon is in the western Mediterranean near Algeria. To reach Istanbul, he has to sail 1,000 miles east through the heart of British naval dominance. Hunting him is Admiral Archibald Barclay Milne, commanding the British Mediterranean Fleet. Milne has 3 battle cruisers, 4 armored cruisers, and 4 light cruisers. He outnumbers Souchon 10-1. It should be an easy kill. But Souchon has desperation. He knows he can't go home. The British control Gibraltar. His only hope is the Dardanelles. He orders his ships to run at full speed. Inside the boiler rooms, the heat rises to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Stokers faint from exhaustion. German officers stand with pistols drawn to ensure the men keep shoveling coal. Milne fumbles the chase. He's cautious. He receives confusing orders from Churchill. He hesitates when he should attack. Souchon slips through the net. He reaches the Aegean running on fumes. His coal bunkers are practically empty. He stops at a Greek island to buy coal from a merchant ship, violating neutrality laws. He doesn't care. Survival is all that matters. On August 10th, the Goeben and Breslau arrive at the mouth of the Dardanelles. Souchon radios the Turkish commander at the fort. I request permission to enter. This is the moment that decides the fate of the Middle East. Enver Pasha is in the War Ministry when the message arrives. The German ships are at the gate. The British fleet is close behind. If we let them in, we're violating neutrality. If we keep them out, the British will sink them. Enver doesn't wait for consensus. He acts on his own authority. He sends a message to the forts. Open the minefields. Let them in. As the boom nets part and the gray shapes glide into the calm waters, the British vanguard appears on the horizon. They're just hours too late. The door slams shut. Now a diplomatic crisis erupts. The British ambassador in Istanbul, Sir Louis Mallet, storms into the Grand Vizier's office. He demands the German ships be interned. Under international law, a neutral country must arrest belligerent warships. But the Ottomans are trapped. They can't arrest the Germans because Enver won't allow it. They can't admit they're sheltering them without declaring war. Someone comes up with a stroke of genius. A lie so bold it changes reality. The Ottoman government releases a statement. We have not sheltered these ships. We have bought them. The German government has kindly agreed to sell us the Goeben and Breslau to replace the 2 ships the British stole. It's pure theater. No money changes hands. The ships are still German property in every legal sense. but the propaganda value is immense. The Turkish people who were mourning their lost ships suddenly go wild with joy. The British stole our ships. The Germans gave us new ones. It's poetic justice. On August 16th, a ceremony is held in the Golden Horn. The German naval ensign is lowered. The Ottoman flag is raised. The Goeben is renamed Yavuz Sultan Selim. The Breslau becomes Midilli. But there's a problem. The Ottomans don't have sailors trained to operate German turbines and fire control systems, so the German crews don't leave. Crates of uniforms are brought aboard. German sailors, blonde-haired and blue-eyed, take off their marine uniforms and put on Ottoman uniforms. They put on fezzes. Admiral Seizure puts on a fez and is appointed commander-in-chief of the Ottoman Navy. The British ambassador watches this masquerade with fury. He knows they're still German ships. He knows the orders come from Berlin, but the diplomatic fiction holds. Britain is not yet ready to fight the Turks while the battle rages on the Western Front. For 2 months, the Yavuz sits in the harbor, a loaded gun pointed at the heart of Russia. The peace holds by a thread. But Enver Pasha and Admiral Souchon have secret orders from the Kaiser. Bring Turkey into the war. Open a new front to distract the Russians and the British. Souchon grows impatient. He's tired of sitting at anchor. He's a warrior, not a diplomat. In late October, he goes to Enver. They hatch a plot to force the government's hand, to create a crisis that makes neutrality impossible. On October 27th, Admiral Souchon takes his fleet into the Black Sea. He announces it's a training exercise. He steams north toward the Russian coast. He orders radio silence. On the morning of October 29th, the citizens of Sevastopol wake up to a thunderous roar. They look out to sea and see a massive battleship flying the Turkish flag, firing heavy shells into the harbor. The Yavuz pounds the Russian naval base. Shells crash into warehouses, docks, and ships. Simultaneously, the Midilli shells the port of Novorossiysk, sinking 14 transport ships and setting massive oil storage tanks on fire. The smoke turns day into night. It's a sneak attack. A Pearl Harbor of the Black Sea. Souchon has done it. He's committed an act of war so flagrant there's no going back. When the news reaches Istanbul, the moderate ministers are horrified. They try to draft an apology. They try to claim Souchon went rogue. But the Russians aren't interested in apologies. On November 2nd, Russia declares war on the Ottoman Empire. On November 5th, Britain and France declare war. The sick man of Europe has thrown away his crutches and picked up a gun. The Middle East is at war. And it all started because Winston Churchill wanted 2 ships.